What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Strike Team Official. And today we are going to be going over what makes something a traditional versus a modern martial arts style. So when a lot of people think about traditional martial arts, the first thing that comes in their head is Asia. Okay? Due to a lot of the mysticism and the kung fu movies of the past, when people think traditional martial arts, a lot of the time they're thinking about Eastern Asian, the kung fus, the taekwondos, the karate styles of martial arts. But nowadays, martial arts is more the overall term for all combat forms. Okay, so boxing can be considered a martial art. Muay Thai is considered a martial art. Even wrestling is a martial art. So what separates something from being traditional versus modern? And I'm gonna hit you with two surprising facts. It's not coming from Asia, and it's not the age of the martial art. For example, a lot of people consider boxing or wrestling, because of how popular it is in MMA and the UFC world, to be modern martial arts. But in reality, both boxing and wrestling are older than the Shaolin Temple by over 1,000 years. Okay? Boxing and wrestling is older than almost every kung fu style, contrary to popular belief. So obviously age isn't the factor. Karate in its current form, where you're wearing the gi and wearing the belts, is I don't even think it's 100 years old yet. Okay, it actually, it's about exactly 100 years old. It's not an old martial arts system. Taekwondo is newer than that, right? But karate and Taekwondo are considered traditional martial arts, when age-wise, they're not even close to boxing, wrestling, or Muay Thai, for instance. So what are the main differences between traditional and modern martial arts? Well, you can kind of sum it up into the sources of validation. Okay, whether you're looking at the source of your techniques coming from a past master, or like this kind of fictional past grand martial artist that can do no wrong, or if it's coming from current practical knowledge and what you can prove right here in the present. Those are the main differences that I've been able to see. But to kind of break that down, let's look at them one at a time. So let's look at traditional martial arts first. And some of the characteristics you'll find in traditional martial arts systems. One of the main ones is a high respect for the past masters. Meaning, if you're practicing a technique and you're supposed to be training it in the exact way and the exact thought process of how the past masters did the technique. As in, perfection is in the past. The master who founded the system, or wherever it comes from, that's where the perfection is. And you're striving to match that perfection. You're not necessarily trying to change or overly evolve the martial art, because you want to stay within that traditional, that respect to the master. So the past and the ancestors has a high influence on your training methods. One of the main benefits of traditional martial arts is that it teaches you principles about how to live your life that go beyond the punching and kicking. Okay, respect, discipline, honor, perseverance, kindness. Like, there are non-martial aspects usually connected to traditional martial arts that a lot of the time has to do with a spiritual journey that kind of goes along with the combat system. So along with, respecting the ancestors in the past, you have this spiritual side, which is what I call like the life path that you walk as a martial artist as well. So a lot of the time you'll hear traditional martial artists say something like, well, it's not all about fighting. Well, to a lot of them, it's not. There's a deeper meaning to the martial art that they get outside of just being able to punch and kick, but that comes with it. Sort of a code, a life code you can get out of that martial art. Karate also has this ideal and expectation that you're going to be fighting an untrained attacker. Now, in many ways, I kind of consider this to be an excuse for getting away with your techniques not being very good. But traditional martial artists often say, well, we're training ourselves for an untrained attacker, and so our techniques don't always work in sports combat. Like I said, I personally consider that to be kind of an excuse, but it is a common thing that traditional martial arts, the older the martial art is, you're not expecting to be fighting someone who is also trained to fight you back. There is some credibility to that. Current day and age, right? We have TV. Everybody has seen a boxing match. Everyone's seen MMA. Even if they don't train, they have a general mental idea of what a fight looks like, right? Even with just YouTube and watching fights. You don't necessarily have that 300, well, not even necessarily, you don't have that 300 years ago, right? You don't have the ability to pull up your computer and watch real fighters fight and have an idea of how it works. And if you ever see someone who's never fought before and you ask them what they think a fight, like how a fight works, they're usually very wrong, right? So untrained attackers from, 300 years ago would be, in general, probably less skilled than an untrained attacker now because they never even have a chance to watch a UFC fight on TV. So there is also something to say that maybe there is some truth to that statement, that the untrained attackers of a long time ago were less skilled than the average person now. So to put that in direct contrast, modern martial arts expect something very different. Okay, they understand that martial arts are a lot more common now than they used to be. So especially due to the evolution of sports fighting on TV, wrestling in high school campuses, things like that. And even people having an idea of how to throw a proper jab or cross just from watching TV, right? So you are training not just to beat some guy who can only flail his hands in the air, but you're often going to be training, hopefully expecting to beat an actual trained attacker. Even when you look at modern martial arts that are based on purely self-defense, okay, even those are kind of taking into account the fact that you're going to have more trained people around you. Another thing is sports has forced martial arts to actively evolve. With sports, not just being able to go watch the sports, but have them on TV, people are able to see which techniques are actively working and which ones aren't. And this actually comes to one of the biggest differences between modern martial arts and traditional martial arts. And that is the willingness to disrespect tradition or a past. No, that's a bad word. Not disrespect. Because it's not disrespectful to evolve. But it is the willingness to change a technique from what a past master said, or change something from the way your master said to do it to a new version if it's proven to work better. Okay? Tradition, the importance of doing it the way the master did it is very small in modern martial arts if a better way is shown to exist. For example, okay, Muay Thai. Muay Thai is an old martial art. But one of the reasons a lot of people don't necessarily consider it the same as a traditional martial art in the way of karate or taekwondo is if you're a Muay Thai fighter and you're throwing a traditional Muay Thai jab cross or jab cross hook, Muay Thai traditionally doesn't have a lot of head movement, doesn't have a lot of footwork, or it has footwork, but it's not as dynamic as, say, boxing, right? And say you're a Muay Thai fighter and you're using it and you recognize you're getting pieced up with your hands. Well, you meet a boxer, he teaches you a new way of punching or moving, and all of a sudden you are willing to change a large portion of how you're throwing your punches to match the boxer and not the way that your instructor told you originally, your pure Muay Thai instructor may have originally told you to do it, okay? Because you're actively willing to adjust and change your system based on what's working best. If you're a boxer, okay, and boxing is one of the oldest martial arts out there, okay, and someone comes in and is, beating you up. For example, the idea of dodging and slipping in boxing, as old as boxing is, if you look at the age of boxing is actually a relatively new idea. Dodging and slipping punches was considered wimpy at a certain point in boxing. It's about who's the man and who can stand there and take it, right? But the moment people started getting pieced up and beat up by someone who's able to slip and dodge punches, now everyone does it. Right, so it's about the evolution of the willingness of the sport or the martial art to evolve. And sports has been a huge factor in that, and it's also translated to many modern martial arts who are willing to change when they see things working and willing to really take that into the system and change the system based on what works best. Also, modern martial arts, not all of them, but a good number of them do not focus on that spiritual aspect at all, at least on the surface. So when you're coming to the martial art gym, say you're coming into a boxing gym, boxing is an awful definition. So say, for example, you're coming into a Muay Thai gym, or you're coming into a wrestling gym. You're not going to have the teacher sit there and break down the importance of, discipline, respect, honor. You're not gonna have them come in and having you recite a creed on the importance of certain moral virtues that this martial art wants to hold to. And again, one thing about traditional martial arts is they're also currently used, at least, to build up kind of the idea of an upstanding citizen, right? And you don't necessarily have that same focus in a lot of modern martial arts. That being said, okay, I would say that modern martial arts still teach a lot of those same principles, but instead of teaching it verbally or through the traditional rituals within the practice, you learn humility by getting beat up. Okay, if you go into a jiu-jitsu gym and get strangled for a year, you learn humility, right? You go into a boxing gym, you get beat up by the pro, you learn humility. And then, hopefully, if you're a decent human being, as you start getting better and improving, you learn how to be humble within your strength. So, I do believe that modern martial arts can teach the same beneficial, moral principles, but it kind of comes from a less of a direct path. It's more through the practice itself. It kind of just should develop. If you're not, surrounded by a teacher or, who might be a dick or something. That does happen. I know a lot of boxing gyms where you ain't gonna learn that. You're just gonna come out being a little bit of a jerk and just beat people up. So it doesn't happen all the time. But that is something that you can get from a modern martial art as well, depending on where you're training. Now, while there are traditional and modern martial arts, there are also martial arts that kind of merge and bring these things together. A great example for that would be judo. Judo is considered to be a modern martial art, yet because of the heavy sport aspect and focus, it's also considered to be very modern. It has the cultural respect aspect when you come into a lot of judo gyms and dojos, but you also have the willingness to adapt and change techniques based on what's working best to win your competitions. So you do get martial arts that kind of have a little bit of both. Certain karate gyms, especially if they compete a lot, are willing to make adjustments as well. So there are middle grounds in this. I'm kind of speaking on the two extremes of the modern and traditional. I understand there's sort of a spectrum with everything, but that's kind of how I would separate the two. Now, that being said, I know everyone is not going to agree with me on this. That is totally fine. I'm actually very interested in everyone else's kind of opinion. So please, in the comment section, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. If you have anyone who's really a serious martial arts scholar who maybe wants to talk about it, maybe we can hop on a live, have a conversation, and kind of talk about how you would consider the differences between those two martial arts. Because I think that is, I think this is a really interesting topic and something that can really be delved into. So please like, subscribe, hit that notification button, share it. If you got angry at this in any way, please don't get too mad. I also understand, us martial artists and some of us, we get offended easily. I'm not trying to offend anybody with this. But yeah, I appreciate your time, and I will talk to you next time. Peace.